Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Junto Presents. Join us at Franklin Manor, home to the Junto, a gentleman's club in the classic style where adventurers, mystics, and other unique individuals gather to socialize and conduct their private business. We offer you a glimpse at the strange and wonderful things to be found there.
Hello and welcome to the latest mini-episode from the grounds of Franklin Manor. I'm David Parkin.
And I'm Robert Gibbs. Today we're coming to you from the Franklin Manor Mist Garden, a well-known geographic oddity that happens to be home to one of the Junto's most hallowed memorials.
The Franklin Manor grounds are part of what geologists refer to as the Great Layered Rock Sequence of New England, which basically means that below our feet, angled rock layers dip gently into groundwater heated by seismic activity.
There's nothing particularly unique about the geology, except for right where we're sitting. Across 3 acres of the grounds, the rock below happens to be much more porous than in other parts of the sequence.
Warm air, heated by the Earth's core, works its way through the permeable rock and creates an extremely rare phenomenon known as breathing ground, identified by the patch of dense mist that covers the area year-round.
The Junto gardeners and landscape architects capitalized on the distinctive qualities of this area to create the mist gardens, featuring autumnal plants and Gothic stonework to accent the mist.
On a hot summer, visitors might be walking through the idyllic green landscape and suddenly find themselves in the middle of a Tim Burton movie. If you're observant, you might even be able to witness the breathing effect firsthand, as the warm air ascending through the rock often causes the earth itself to rise and fall by a few inches, as if the very ground were breathing.
It's creepy.
And that's not all the creepy.
Oh, no?
No. Geologists that have studied the land say it's unlikely that the holy rock occurred naturally.
That's holy like Swiss cheese, not holy like saintly.
Right. Anything but saintly, as a matter of fact.
This is the Junto, after all.
You see, as we talked about in the last episode, every inch of the grounds has been well documented and surveyed since the early 1700s. But it wasn't until around 1843 that the mist garden phenomena was first observed, and the story goes that it had something to do with the weather.
Many years ago, the Junto Meteorological Society, known as the Kite and Key Club, was formed by Ben Franklin, whose interest in such matters is well documented, and for good reason. But more on that later.
In 1843, Austrian scientist Christian Doppler, whose famous effect you might have heard of, traveled here from Prague at the invitation of the Kite and Keys to test the application of his theories in the field of meteorology. As the story goes, one gray and wet morning, Doppler and a number of Junto scientists were right here experimenting with a rudimentary form of what would come to be known as Doppler radar.
Now, this was a full 2 decades before anyone else had even discovered radio waves, so obviously it was pretty experimental stuff. Anyway, unknown to them, the League of the Cyclic happened to be attempting to open up a pocket dimension just over the hill, right about where we're sitting. Lightning struck the transmitter the scientists were using, which sent an arc through the air that connected with Bocephus Asp, that's A-S-P, who was the archmage of the Cyclic at the time.
Well, there wasn't much left of old Bocephus after that. There are some who say he was vaporized, and there are others who believe the lightning strike shattered the pocket dimension the Cyclic had opened and forced the millions of remaining pieces deep inside the earth, locking the poor man's soul inside them, screaming in agony for eternity.
Let's hope it's the first one.
Yes, let's.
Regardless of the fate of Bocephus Asp, the perennial shroud of mist in the garden offered a good metaphor for a memorial dedicated to those who served in secret as loyal members of the Junto.
As we mentioned in previous episodes, the club's early activities included covert military operations and espionage. For that, it was necessary for certain members to hide their affiliation.
The names of these Junto members in the mist, as they have come to be known, are etched into a wall at the north end of the garden. And the first person on that list is Constable David Smith.
Smith was a friend of Ben Franklin's and an officer in the Philadelphia police force when the Junto was formed. In response to certain strange events involving the city leadership, the group became the base of a resistance movement against the local government.
Which, incidentally, is not unrelated to Ben Franklin's early work with electricity. But more on that later. For the moment, just know that Franklin and the Junto had need of an agent within the ranks of Philadelphia law enforcement, and that man was David Smith.
Constable Smith's loyalty served the cause of the Junto and the burgeoning new American nation at great personal risk.
Right. If his superiors had known what he was doing, they would have eaten him alive.
That's not a figure of speech either. They would have literally consumed his flesh with their mouths until he was dead.
Gross.
But true.
Through the years, and technically even to this day, there have been men and women who've needed to hide their club affiliation in order to protect themselves and their families. But, and say it with me, Dave, more on that later. Now we have a question from our mailbag.
You sure about that?
I am. No blank papers this time. I have it on my phone.
Ah, good thinking.
This week's question comes from listener Mila Vasulis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. From Charlottesville, Virginia.
Hello, Mila.
She asks, when will the new season begin? I want more episodes, followed by a bunch of exclamation points. Very emphatic.
It's a good question, Mila, and today we're proud to be able to answer it. Our upcoming second season will be a little different from the first.
Yeah, last season we presented a series of isolated stories from our archives. This season will be a much more extensive story, told over 6 serialized episodes.
So look out for that, Mila. Exclamation point. We're working to get those ready ASAP. In the meantime, tell your friends, family, or even loose acquaintances about our first season, and please leave a rating and review on iTunes and Stitcher.
Also, check out our YouTube page and follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at Junto Presents, and at the Junto Presents on Instagram. And you can always send us an email at deadletter@thejuntopresents.com.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
The house is haunted by the echo of your last goodbye. The house is haunted by memories that refuse to die.
The Junto Presents is brought to you by Dreams in the Witch House, a Lovecraftian rock opera available at witchhouserocks.com. Tonight's miniature program was written and produced by Mr. David Parkin and Mr. Robert J. Gibbs. It was edited by Mr. Timothy Thompson. I am your announcer, James K. Riley, reminding you that the Junto are dedicated to mutual improvement in the lives and business they embody. Who are the Junto? Perhaps, dear listener, the Junto is you.